Welcome to this episode of our program, Daily Debate. As usual, we will be discussing an important topic. Tonight we'll be focusing on Egypt's foreign policy. And Egypt's foreign policy has several constant bases. Egypt is or has always been the cornerstone of the stability and security of the Arab region. Egypt has been putting the Middle East causes and Africa as first priority files on its agenda when dealing with a situation. Egypt is open to the whole world on the basis of mutual interests and respect. Egypt has been throughout the past few years able to regain its position on the international arena and put itself on the map again as a regional power on different spheres. Tonight we'll be speaking about the Egyptian position, and we will be speaking about the Egyptian foreign policy and its bases on all levels and from different angles. Tonight we'll be focusing on the first priorities files for Egypt. Tonight we'll be also focusing on the regional and international threats and how Egypt is dealing with those challenges. Before we delve into our discussion, let me first have a quick look on the top story of the day. And President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi held talks with Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli, Minister of Electricity and Renewable Energy Mohammed Shakir, and Minister of Petroleum and Mineral Resources Tariq Al-Mullah on Thursday. During the meeting, President Sisi directed to boost the state's plan to increase renewable energy resources and enlarge its value, as well as expanding power and electricity projects during the coming stage. The head of state further expressed the state's keenness on facing challenges and problems, as well as reaching solutions at two levels. First, by dealing with the extraordinary circumstances, and second, by reaching radical solutions for them. Presidential spokesman Councillor Ahmed Fahmy said the meeting comes within the framework of the President's following up of means of securing citizens' needs and economic activities from the electric current through a constant and sustainable means to avoid power outages in the future. Welcome back, and before we start with our discussion to our topic tonight, let me first take this report. And President Sisi meets United Arab Emirates, Bahrain leaders in the new city of Alamein. Let's watch.
President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi met in Alamein city on Saturday with United Arab Emirates President Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan and King of Bahrain Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa to discuss global and regional developments. Presidential spokesman Councillor Ahmed Fahmy said that President al-Sisi met Al Nahyan earlier on Saturday, with whom he discussed ways to enhance cooperation in various fields, including economy and development, to achieve the aspirations of the Egyptian and Emirati peoples towards progress, stability and prosperity. He added that the two leaders see eye to eye about the importance of intensifying joint Arab efforts to address the growing challenges in the region and the world. Later on Saturday, al-Sisi also met with the King of Bahrain, Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa, in New Al Alamein. The two leaders discussed the relations between their countries at the political, economic and developmental levels. The head of state and Al Khalifa also reviewed recent regional and international developments and problems, affirming the necessity of intensifying cooperation and joint Arab action to face these challenges across the region. Mohammed bin Zayed arrived earlier in Egypt's north coast. He was spotted on Friday in summer resorts and cities, including Emirati-owned Maresi Resort and New Alamein city, mingling with people and taking selfies.
Right, welcome back. And to highlight the issue we have with us over the phone, His Excellency Ambassador Hussein Harridy, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Good evening to you, Your Excellency.
Good evening, madam.
We're speaking about the Egyptian foreign policy and the constants of our foreign policy so far. We're also speaking about the regional threats and the scene surrounding Egypt.
Okay. Well, Egyptian foreign policy for many decades has been driven by basic principles. And if I may just cite few of them. The first one is, of course, the respect for the independence and the sovereignty of countries. The second one is the commitment and respect of the United Nations Charter. The third one is the principle of the peaceful settlement of disputes among states. The fourth one is non-interference in the domestic affairs of foreign countries. And the last one would be the spirit of non-alignment. Of course, today we can hardly speak of the non-aligned movement, but still the spirit of not taking sides in the competition and in the conflict among superpowers has always been a cornerstone in Egyptian foreign policy. Lately, due to the changes in the international scene, Egypt has adopted a very forward-looking foreign policy towards the great powers. In this context, we have maintained excellent relations with the United States, with Russia, with China, and now in the last few years, we have developed very good relations with Japan, with India, and with other countries, particularly in the BRICS grouping, namely Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Speaking of South Africa, of course, in the last 10 years, Egypt has made a point of opening up to Africa. And on the other hand, of course, this entailed the involvement of Egypt in in the settlement of some African conflicts, and in Egypt taking part in all efforts to combat terrorism in some parts of Africa. In the context of the Egyptian approach to Africa, we have seen Egypt's President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, visiting countries for the first time in Africa. So he visited the Ivory Coast, and he was the first Egyptian president to do that. Similarly, lately President Sisi visited Angola and Mozambique. And these are two countries also that hadn't been visited by an Egyptian head of state. And that, of course, in addition to other visits that President Sisi has made to various African countries. On the other hand, we we have developed and we have reaffirmed our attachment to very good relations with the European Union, particularly the Euro-Mediterranean countries, Spain, Italy, France, Greece, Malta, and Cyprus. I beg your pardon?
Our Mediterranean partners. But let me hear, before I go to the international web, because let me here take it from this perspective, and you spoke about Africa, so the Middle East. And Egypt's approach towards issues of the Middle East and issues of Africa has always been reasonable and built on finding political solution to conflicts, existing conflicts, and at the same time, not trying to interfere in the domestic affairs of other countries. How do you view how Egypt dealt so far with the regional and continental issues from those perspectives?
Well, if we take the regional issues, just to be specific, we take the Palestinian question, which is one of the main questions in Egyptian foreign policy. Of course, we have always supported the two-state solution, as well as trying hard with the Palestinian factions to unite their ranks. And lately, Egypt hosted in Alamein a meeting for the Secretary Generals of most Palestinian organizations in order to carry out a reconciliation, an intra-Palestinian reconciliation. The other regional question is, of course, the situation in Syria. In Syria, we have always called for respect for the sovereignty of Syria, and in the meantime, for the implementation, the letter and spirit of Security Council Resolution 2254 of December 2015, which has provided us with a roadmap for a democratic transition in Syria. If we take another regional question, which is of utmost importance from the angle of Egyptian national security, the situation in Libya. We have maintained all United Nations efforts in Libya, and President Sisi participated in the Berlin summit of January 2020, and we have called on all factions in Libya to abide by the Berlin Declaration. And in fact, in the context of our commitment to the Berlin Declaration, Egypt has hosted various meetings for the Libyan political forces and Libyan government and the Libyan parliament in the three baskets of the Berlin Declaration. And I mean the military one, the financial economic one, and the constitutional political one. So Egypt has been playing a very active role with all the stakeholders, with the international community, with Arab countries, in order to facilitate the implementation on the ground of all Security Council resolutions pertaining whether to the Palestinian question, the situation in Syria, the situation in Libya, and lately, speaking about our African policies, we have hosted a summit meeting for neighboring countries for Sudan in order to develop a consensus on how to end the military clashes going on in Khartoum for the last four months.
Yes, indeed, indeed. And here started the Sudanese mechanism to find a permanent solution for the for this very, very critical problem the Sudanese, our Sudanese brothers are facing. And then we've seen the participation of our foreign minister in the Chadian summit.
Yeah, that was a follow-up meeting. That was a follow-up meeting agreed upon during the Cairo summit for the neighboring countries of Sudan in order to come up with some kind of a roadmap or some kind of an implementation mechanism for a permanent ceasefire in Sudan.
Indeed. Your Excellency, Hussein Harridy, Ambassador Hussein Harridy, former Assistant Foreign Minister, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. It was my pleasure. Thanks for having me, madam. Thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure.